Okay, I always get nervous when I can see the whites around a woman's eyes, like the Runaway Bride, that story. Like I can see the. So I could sort of see her coming as being crazy. Were there any of those guys that had those crazy eyes where you just went, I don't even know, aside from Vernon, but the people you just looked at and you went, you don't want to look like you.
I will
you're
say
around tough guys.
I will say this: I've only seen that look once, and I'm going to tell you when. It was the Malice
at
the Palace. And I only saw the whites of someone's eyes once. And that's when, and you could pull this up, Paulie, when I'm patting Ron down, when he's laying on, this is after the scuffle.
He's on the scores table?
He's on the scores table laying down. So this is after the scuffle with Ben Wallace. The referees, they're huddling. Ron goes, lays down. I'm kind of like, hey, calm down, big fella, you know, like this. Out of the corner of my eye, I see the red cup traveling in slow motion towards Ron. And as soon as it hits Ron, it was like the Incredible Hulk. He turned green. And I looked at him, the eyes went white. I was like, no! It was in slow motion. He just jumped off the table. And the rest was history. It was crazy. That whole scene was crazy.
Tell me something about that night that I don't know.
So once Ron went into the stands, because I was on IR, I had broken my finger. So I jumped in after him. I believe at the time, Steven Jackson was in the stands in the same area. Chuck Person and I went to go get Ron. That was our first priority, was to get Ron back out of the stands onto the court. We get Ron back onto the court, and I remember this vividly. We're at half court, and we're telling him to calm down. This is all in a matter of 35, 45 seconds. A police officer runs up to us and has his mace out and is getting ready to spray Ron in his face. And everything is going crazy in the stands. Fans now are starting to run onto the court, and we have Ron. I mean, Ron is secure now. And he's running up to Ron, and he's getting ready to spray him in his face. And I put my arm out to the officer. I was like, what are you doing? No. Go get the fans off the court. We have him. He's like, no, I'm going to spray. I'm like, no, we have him. And then that's when Chuck and I escort Ron to the locker room with all the litter and the beer and the popcorn and all that. But I just remember that officer and that mace in his hand running up to us, getting ready to probably spray all of us, but more so Ron. And I'm like, no, dude, this is not going to go down right here. That's the one thing I remember vividly from that, other than the whites of Ron's eyes. It was, I've never experienced anything like that. I'm surprised there's not a 30 for 30 on that.
Oh, there will be.
There will be, but you got to get the cooperation of Ron, and I don't think Ron will ever talk about that day.
Why? You could, if you produced the 30 for 30.
I don't know if he'll really, because if you go back and you talk to him, and I've had a chance to kind of talk to him in passing, he is so remorseful, and I understand that, because at the time, the Pacers did not know that was going to be my last year. I knew. I was just waiting for the second half of the season to announce it. I didn't want to announce the beginning of the season that was going to be my last game. That was our fourth or fifth game of the year. And he's been so remorseful because that was my last year. He thought he ruined my last year, which he didn't. But I don't think he'll ever talk about that.
What role did the opposition play in that? Was there anything that led up to, like, I'd always heard Ben Wallace was involved in this.
Well, again,
with him and Ron.
Yeah, but it was more of a team buildup. They had defeated us the year before in the playoffs to move on to the finals and win. And I remember during that playoff series, the prior year, Ron and Jermaine were kind of having a butt of heads of whose team it was. And I was like, you guys, it's neither of your teams, it's my team. Don't you guys understand, if we win this series, we're going to be NBA champs? Because I knew whoever we faced in the West, which turned out to be the Lakers, defense was going to win that championship. And the two best defensive teams at the time were Detroit and Indiana. I was like, if we win this series, we're going to be champs. But they couldn't understand that. And they go on to win the championship. And then, You know, obviously we're conference rivals, we're division rivals, and Ben and Ron, they've always, I don't know what it is, they've always had something against one another, and they just got into it, and Ron's not going to back down. I mean, Ron's a scary dude. Ben's a scary dude too. He could be on that all crazy team too. And they just got into it, and that was nothing. That happens all the time. That was broken up. It's the cup that came in later with the beer that flipped the script for everyone.